Hello everyone, ex-Wallkill Bethelite here. And according to Jehovah's Witnesses, preaching, this global preaching work in principle isn't just knocking on doors. The concept is visual. That if a person sees a cart, sees a Jehovah's Witness sitting next to a cart, that this is preaching. The visual sight of someone standing next to a cart, or even if the person doesn't speak to anybody, and here's a church right here, or Jehovah's Witness just going down someone's block. If they just see them, then that's preaching. Right? Because I said that, hey, Jehovah's Witnesses don't even talk to people that much. People aren't interested in their Scientology-looking carts. And people aren't interested in these people going around their block handing out magazines. So they're not even speaking to anybody. Well, the response to that really is the preaching work doesn't involve so much speaking as it does just writing letters, putting magazines in. Here's that church over here, putting magazines in laundromats, and just someone visibly seeing somebody with a briefcase in a suit walking around their block. Well, that's preaching, right? Well, then churches have been preaching for longer than Jehovah's Witnesses. Look at that. Barbecue chicken sausage plate, right? For this church here. This church is feeding the public, and they've got a cross out. You got to understand that the cross is more recognizable to people than a cart with magazines and books on it. So churches have been doing the global preaching work according to Jehovah's Witnesses. Because if someone visibly seeing something that is of a religious nature is preaching, they just visibly just see it. Like they just see a Jehovah's Witness walking down the street. Well, that's preaching. They just see a cart. They see, well, there's books on it and I can get some books if I want to. Well, that's preaching. A letter is in their mailbox from who they don't know. But that's preaching because they can open the letter, right? Well, in that case, these churches that have got crosses everywhere, the most recognizable Christian symbol there is the cross. And churches have been building humongous structures. These are the streets in San Antonio here. This one is, I can't even pronounce it because the streets are in Spanish. South San Jaco or something. Look at that house. Dun, 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 that's Sanford and Son. Look at how small that house is. We're not on Martin Luther King Drive anymore. We're on streets that are in Spanish. The street itself is in Spanish. So, according to the Jehovah's Witness definition of the global preaching work, which is somebody just has to see a Jehovah's Witness. That's all they got to do. Just see a Jehovah's Witness. They ain't even got to talk to anybody. They don't have to preach in a group. such as the definition of the term. Well, then churches have been, quote unquote, preaching for longer than Jehovah's Witnesses, because do you think a church with a giant cross is not more recognizable than a Kingdom Hall? If there is a structure on the planet that is recognizable as a place a person could go and hear about Christ if they wanted to, that's the Kingdom Hall. Dun, 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 dun. I'm telling you, it's not just black people, it's black and brown people. Some of these houses are worse than mobile homes, you know what I mean? It's black and brown, and then that house is super nice. You're going to have houses like that where it's just super nice. So then churches have been doing the same preaching that Jehovah's Witnesses have been doing, because instead of making a whole bunch of little carts and wandering around with briefcases and putting magazines in laundromats, they have invested in making large structures, right? A church is a large cart for a Jehovah's Witness that's having a hard time understanding. We got to slow things down for them. Think of a church as a very large cart where people see this cart. I like that house. Where people see this cart and know that if they're interested in Christianity, that's a place that they could go to learn. That's witnessing. That's preaching to a Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witnesses can't say that just setting up something that's visible like a cart is preaching, but it's only preaching if we set up something visible. If anybody else does it, well, it's not preaching anymore. Well, no, come on now. That's ridiculous. Here's yet another one. I don't have a problem finding a church. Nobody has a problem finding a church. Christians have set up churches in such a manner where nobody has a problem finding a church. They've done such a good job of setting up noticeable structures that everybody can see and know they have an opportunity to become Christian, that you have to say that that's preaching that. You would have to say that that is preaching. We're going to look down some more of these streets here. That's San Jaquin that we went down. We already went down that street. You would have to say, if you're an honest person, that if a Jehovah's Witness set up a little magazine cart and call that preaching, oh wow, look at this amazing magazine cart. That's San Horatio. I mean, the streets are all in Spanish. The whole street itself is in Spanish. If that is preaching, then what is all this? San Eduardo. Let's go down San Dario. Everything got San next to it. We got a shoe shop down here. So I would love to hear the Jehovah's Witness response to what I am asserting. And what I am asserting is that if a Jehovah's Witness believes that someone just visibly seeing their cart or visibly seeing a letter that they wrote, is witnessing to them or preaching, then all these churches that set up all these crosses, setting the cross up on top of the church for everybody to see, they're witnessing also. They're witnessing also. They're preaching also. That structure is more recognizable than a cart. Then they're preaching and teaching also. Them houses got bars on them windows, boy. I may not zoom in on anybody in particular here, but you have to say that that's preaching, that's teaching. Churches, the church, the physical structure itself is preaching. The physical church structure is preaching. Let me pull out here. I can go to extreme haircuts here and get me an extreme haircut. I want to know the answer to that. What do Jehovah's Witnesses have to say? Church structures are larger than kingdom halls. Churches have invested way more money into, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, preaching than Jehovah's Witnesses have. You don't have to have a small group of people walking around a block in suitcases when a church has built this huge structure and set a cross on top of the thing, and everybody knows it's a church. Why do we need, and keep in mind that they anyway go to people's houses. Look at that house. They anyway go to people's houses. I ain't hating on these houses now. Look at that car. We ain't hating on nobody's house. Home is home. Home is home. We just going down these Spanish streets and looking at them. But churches have been making structures where nobody has a problem finding a place if they're Christian and they want to learn about Christianity. Churches did that first. Churches did that before Jehovah's Witnesses did. Churches did that before Jehovah's Witnesses did. Before there were Jehovah's Witnesses, churches have built structures that are witnessing to people. Right? The churches have built structures that are witnessing to people. Let's get out on this main road here. So Jehovah's Witnesses weren't Jehovah's Witnesses first. Churches were Jehovah's Witnesses first. Right? It's just most of Christianity knows that God's name did not actually start with a J. So of course they're not going to go and teach people that God's literal name, like Jehovah's Witnesses do. Literal name, just like my name is Marcus, they say God's name is Jehovah. That's not correct. That's not correct. Now, if Jehovah's Witnesses say, well, we use that because it's kind of recognized as you know, something close to it, and people kind of recognize the name in English. People recognize the cross. People recognize the cross. It's recognizable. But and Jehovah's Witnesses are all talking about, oh, the cross is not accurate. Well, the name Jehovah's not accurate. And they don't even know that the cross is not accurate. Now, tell me that this here is not better than a cart. I want you to tell me that this giant structure we about to see right here is not more of a witness than a cart is. Look at this thing. Look at that cross up there. You can see it for 4 blocks away. You can't see a cross from that far away. Look at that. Now that is a giant cart for a Jehovah's Witness. Y'all know what it is. Let me pull over here. That's a cart for a Jehovah's Witness that thinks that just a structure, building something, that's witnessing. I don't think I need my mask. I'm gonna put it in my pocket though. Look at that. How's that for a cart? I would love to talk to a Christian about that and see what they think about Jehovah's Witnesses saying that small structures set up, if a person sees it and knows that it has something of a religious nature, well, then that's preaching. Well, what do you call this giant thing right here? Somebody screaming, or is that a bird? Look at this big thing right here. This is not preaching then. This isn't preaching. And guess what? Guess what? If a person didn't know, let's say there was a possibility a person didn't understand what a cross was. Well, some people have Jesus on the cross. Tell me that you don't recognize that? There ain't a soul watching this video that don't recognize what that is. You can be in Japan and you know what that is. Hold on, let me put my keys in my pocket while we walk down here and look at this giant cart. For a Jehovah's Witness, that's what y'all need to understand. This is a cart. See, your Kingdom Hall could be like this. Then you could say, oh yeah, there's no excuse for people to not know about Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, there's no excuse for people to not know about Christianity, because all these people, these Christians, have already done a great job of witnessing. Look at this. So what do you have to say about that for, you know, the people that say that, the Jehovah's Witnesses that say that if someone just sees, they just set eyes on a cart. I want to look at something else over here. If somebody sets eyes on a cart, that's preaching. If somebody just sets eyes, they look at a Jehovah's Witness walking from door to door, that's preaching. Well, then this has got to be preaching too. Them building a large structure like this, putting up crosses, putting up very well-known symbols of Christianity. Jehovah's Witnesses cannot say anything bad about a cross, because in their name, the very title Jehovah's Witness, the representation of God's name that they use, which is Jehovah, we know that's inaccurate. But they are adamant that they should use it. They should use that as God's name because they feel like it's something that people would recognize in America. Great sky. Super loud. I done found me a place where I can get me a haircut here. Look at this barbershop. Jeffito's Coots. Man, I feel like I'm just in Mexico right now. I can't pronounce nothing in those streets. You can get your hair cut and you get you a tattoo. But yeah, I mean, comment down below, let me know what you think about this. Churches use a very recognizable symbol called a cross to direct people or preach to people according to Jehovah's Witnesses, or witness to people. Look at that, San Fernando. According to Jehovah's Witnesses, that's preaching. All these crosses right here, that's preaching. There's a church across the street over here. There's churches everywhere. So yeah, Christians have already set up their cart, we should say, called churches, and they set them up all over, everywhere in America. And unlike Jehovah's Witnesses, they got to take their cart down and go home. They ain't got to take their carts down. They ain't got to take down a church. It makes way more sense to build a church than it does to set up a cart and then sit there for a little while. That's San Fernando. I'm telling you, I can't pronounce none of these streets. San Fernando. Every church, every street has got sand next to it. But see, tell me if you follow my logic here. Would you rather set up a cart, or would you rather set up a very large structure called a church, recognizable to everyone? Do you think God would rather people, whether you're religious or not, do you think it's smarter for people to put magazines in laundromats or set up giant structures like these so that people from blocks and blocks and blocks all around, if they want to learn about Christianity, they know where to go? All you got to do is look up church in a phone book. Just type the word. Like, it's not hard to find a church at all. So I'm getting ready to head back. Let me put this in my pocket here. They got COVID testing over there. We're about to head back. But yeah, Christians have been preaching, if according to Jehovah's Witnesses, just something visible, setting up a visible structure like a cart. Or Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they're so visible that if somebody sees them walk up to their door with a briefcase, and even if they don't answer the door, well, they're preaching. They count that time as preaching. They count that time as preaching just because somebody saw them. Well, everybody in the city seen that church. Everybody in the city seen that church. Yeah, now that's preaching. Comment down below, let me know what you think. 937-789-4029, X Walk Hill Best Light signing out.